Hey everyone, it's Mike here from The Art of Guitar. Today I'm here with a follow-up video to a lesson I did last week where I talked about screen dependency in musicians and how I've been seeing people staring at iPhones on stage in order to remember lyrics and riffs and stuff like that. And in that video I mentioned a memorization technique that I used one time to actually memorize 50 songs for one gig. I had to do all the lyrics and I had to know all the guitar parts. And I was really excited, but I used a technique that I've been using for a long time. Maybe not to that extent, but I've been using it ever since I was a teenager. And a lot of people ask me about that technique, so that's what this video is for. So today I'll do sort of a shortened version of the technique. On the main website, we'll do the entire list of 20 objects. Today we'll just do 5 to save time. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take 5 random objects and I'm going to say them forward and backward. And you know, it's not going to seem very impressive. It's only 5 things. But if you've had trouble with your memory before, even remembering 3 things can be tough sometimes. So let's do this exercise together. We'll keep it short, like I said, 5 things, and then we'll expand it together with other things, including lyrics. And then when we move over to the main website version of this video, I'll do the entire 20 objects as well as a full song. Here I have written down car, jelly beans, waterfall, unicorn, Kenny Rogers. Just the way my brain worked at that particular moment. Okay, now I just said those 5 things. Try to repeat them forward and backwards. Ready? Go. See how even 5 things could be a little bit tricky? Some of you may have been able to do that, and that's great. But a lot of people go, car, unicorn, Kenny Rogers. It's like, you know, just a few things come back to them. So now let's use the technique. We're going to say it forward and backwards once we know them. And I think you're going to surprise yourself when you expand this up to 20, even up to 50 to 100 different objects. So stick with me, even if it sounds really stupid, okay? So the first thing I want you to do is picture yourself in a car. It could even be your car. That's totally fine. Now I want you to pretend you're driving through a whole pile of jelly beans, okay? So it's an entire road made out of jelly beans. So think about it. You're in your car, you're driving through jelly beans, and the crazier it is and the more nonsensical it is, the better. Trust me. You don't want this to be a normal story. You want this to be completely exaggerated, insane. That way you'll remember things a lot better. So you're in your car, you're driving down a road of jelly beans, right? And now you come to the edge and you fall over the edge, and when you do, it just becomes a big waterfall, okay? So it's like you're falling off the edge of a waterfall. So think about this again. You're in your car, driving through jelly beans. You fall over the waterfall. Now, after you've fallen down the waterfall, you get to the bottom. And waiting there for you is a unicorn, a giant unicorn. It's just kind of staring at you. It has no idea why you're in a car that just drove through a bunch of jelly beans going down a waterfall, but it's there either way. And now the very final part of this, take that unicorn, have it run full speed and stab Kenny Rogers with his horn. I don't know why it would do that. There's no reason to ever stab Kenny Rogers, but that's just what came to mind when I was putting this story together. So one more time, ready? You're in your car, driving through jelly beans, go over the waterfall, when you get to the bottom, you see a unicorn. What does the unicorn do? It stabs Kenny Rogers. Car, jelly beans, waterfall, unicorn, Kenny Rogers. Backwards. Ready? Try it. Kenny Rogers, unicorn, waterfall, jelly beans, car. I know it's stupid and the story makes no sense. It's not supposed to. But if the story was like, you got in your car, you drove down the road, you took a right, you saw a tree. You know, if it's a little too regular, a little too normal every day, it's just all going to mush together and it's not going to be memorable. So make it wild. So real quick, just test yourself. Say it forward and backwards. I'll give you a couple seconds. So now the next logical question is, how is this going to help me remember lyrics? Let's just use lyrics first before we get to the other stuff. Well, what you're doing when you're thinking of these objects is you're creating what are called memory pegs. So you're pegging your memory to different objects and you're connecting it with this wild story so that you could do them in order. Now, whenever I had to remember lyrics to a song, what I would do is I would create that same wild story in my head. And even if the song lyrics were telling a story, I would exaggerate it. So here's an example. I had to learn the lyrics, the rapping part to In the End by Linkin Park. And so in the beginning, the other guy, my friend was singing this other part, says, it starts with one. It starts with one thing. And the lyrics in the beginning are one thing I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. So I'm sure a lot of you guys know that song. Now, how do I remember the first lyric? Because that's the most important. If you mess up the first lyric in a song and you don't have anything written down, that could throw you down a terrible spiral where you're just going to be like, what, searching in your head. You're going to go into that panic mode that I talked about in the last video. This one's really simple because it starts with the word one. So, you think the beginning of the song, one, it's the first bar, whatever you want to do. I just think of this gigantic number one. And then after thinking of the gigantic number one, I just picture myself kind of shrugging, like, I don't know why this gigantic number one is standing here. So that's what gets me started in the song. So I think one thing, I don't know why. And then from there, it's easy to rhyme because I know the next part, it doesn't even matter how hard you try. The next part, keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to explain in due time. So what I did for that is I took that gigantic number one and thought about it going inside my brain. And the reason I do that is because it's keep that in mind. And from there, I just rhyme. I designed this rhyme to explain in due time. That was always easy for me to connect just because, like I said, it all rhymes. All I know. So that's easy because if the one is filling up your brain, that's how you're going to know. See how all these pegs are creating the storyline in your mind? And pretty soon you can get rid of them like training wheels and you'll just recall it instantly because you're so used to doing it over and over again. So let's start over one more time. So what's the first lyric? Hopefully everybody says one, right? One thing, I don't know why, it doesn't even matter how hard you try. Think of it going into your brain. Keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to explain in due time. All I know. Now the next one really requires some visualizing and it works so well because what I do is I picture a grandfather clock. But it's not just some regular old grandfather clock, it's made out of gold. So that reminds me time is a valuable thing because it's made out of gold. That's just what I picture. And now I picture it growing wings and flying. Watch it fly by as the pendulum swings. So I can actually see, this is really weird, sounds like I'm on drugs, a flying golden grandfather clock, and as it's flying, the pendulum is swinging underneath it. As it's flying, it actually has a digital readout on it, counting down. That's something else I can picture really easily in my head. And I picture it as it's doing that, it's flying into the sunset, the sun is setting, and it's watch it count down to the end of the day. The clock ticks life away. It's so unreal. If I had to memorize it today, I'd probably think of Stranger Things and that creepy grandfather clock telling you you're about to die. But we didn't have the show back then, so I just had to imagine a flying grandfather clock. Anyway, isn't that kind of cool to think of a golden grandfather clock flying with a pendulum swinging into the sunset? And then at the end it says, it's so unreal. And it really is unreal because that's a crazy thing to think about. Okay, let's stop there for the lyrics for now, and let's go back to the beginning and let's see if we could trace our steps all the way to the flying grandfather clock, okay? And this is going to prove to you, this has only been a few minutes of studying these lyrics, that you are going to have a good grasp of at least the visualizing part, and the words are connected to it as you go. So ready, what's the first lyric? One, right? So think of the number one, it's the beginning. One thing, I don't know why, like I always picture myself shrugging. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. The one is now in my brain, right? Keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to explain in due time all I know. Here comes the clock, the golden grandfather clock. Ready? Time, because father time, grandfather time in this case. Time is a valuable thing. Now it's flying, right? With a pendulum swing. Watch it fly by as the pendulum swings. Watch it count down. Remember the digital readout's counting down. Watch it count down to the end of the day because it's flying into the sunset. The clock ticks life away. Think of Vecna, Stranger Things. It's so unreal. Now I really want you to do this. Put the lyrics in front of you. Read them and think of that story I just told you. And in a few minutes even, you'll be able to start to recite the lyrics and they'll be locked into your memory forever. If you're on stage all of a sudden and you have to sing In the End, you're at least going to know how to start off. You're at least going to have that sheet moment where you have one thing because you're thinking of the number one in the beginning. Okay, put that story in your head, see if you can get through the lyrics at least to the point we stopped at, okay? Now, whenever I get done doing the story method, the visualization method, I like to also write down all the lyrics, even by hand sometimes, but if you type them out, that's okay as well. When I was a kid, I used to manually type out Kiss lyrics, and I think that really improved my brain as well. But we were using those old-fashioned typewriters back then. It was a chore. But it really seems to solidify it when you're done with all the visualizations. Now, because we're working with memory pegs and we're strengthening those muscles that we need to remember things to have instant recall, what ends up happening is all of your recall ends up getting better, including your guitar riffs, chord progressions, and licks. This happens in a roundabout way, but there can also be a little bit of this technique used in certain situations. And I'll show you how I use them in my Heart tribute band. So let's take the song Crazy on You. I don't do the intro, our singer does. I have to come in during this part. I'm sure you guys know that riff, one of the most classic rock riffs of all time. Anyway, the first note is open A. So I just remember that now, but whenever I used to forget it in the past, I would think of the title of the song. And instead of saying Crazy on You, which is the name, I would exaggerate the crazy and I would say cray-a, like crazy on you. So that told me A. That was a really fun little cheater way to remember that. And it was very effective whenever I was like, wait a minute, where does this start? Cray, okay. I know it seems dumb, but remember what I said. Sometimes the dumber the better because you'll remember it. One time I completely blanked out on this part. It's a cool little lick, but I forgot which chords were being played before the licks. It's really just A minor and it's D. But I blanked out completely. I somehow got through it live. But when I went home to practice again, I thought, you know what? I need a way to remember this. I need some sort of memory peg for it. So the lyric that happens right before this happens the first time in the song is no time to be young. Now, another word for someone who is young would be a minor. So A minor. This is kind of worked out that way. So this is kind of a fortunate accident, a serendipitous moment when it comes to memory pegs, but no time to be young. A minor. Is that weird? So that's all I needed, and from then on I've never forgotten where to go for that particular part of the song. It's a huge relief. Now that's a very direct result of using this crazy memory technique, but like I said, your overall memory will improve and all of a sudden you'll be playing riffs and you'll just see things come to you a lot better. I really noticed that people who forget things a lot, they really don't work their memories a lot, so they're always relying on a screen. They're always reading the lyrics or they're following tab on a screen when they're trying to play, and so their brain never really has to step up and hit that moment where it knows it just has to remember something. So now if you keep using it and you keep improving your visualization and you're able to see things a lot clearer, everything around it's going to get stronger, and I promise your licks and your riffs are also going to benefit from this. Even your everyday life, like you go to the grocery store and be like, wait, what was I supposed to get? And you'll sometimes forget. Now, hopefully you can use these memory pegs and this storytelling visualization technique to help you out. Like I said on the website, we'll do full versions of this. I'll do 20 items, and then I'll also do the full lyrics for Blue Suede Shoes. And the reason I'm doing that is because in my previous video, I showed that band where the girl singer was looking at the lyrics for it. And I want to show you a blueprint of what I would have done to remember those lyrics. Actually, I have sang that song before, but the blueprint that I would use today if I wanted to memorize all the lyrics to Blue Suede Shoes. So we'll do all that at the main website, but hopefully the technique that I showed you today in this video will get you started in the right direction. So I'm really excited to hear about you all surprising yourselves with this technique and what your brain is actually capable of. And I'm also looking forward to reading your comments. All right, everyone, thanks for watching this video, and we'll catch you at the next one. Okay, bye.